Yes, it's true. Apple's being sued again. First we had Antenna Gate, then we had Ben Gate, and now we have Progate. Alright, welcome back to Mike Texts It Out. I'm Mike, and I am here to talk about things that I have around the house, like these Powerbeats Pros. And the reason I'm talking about them is because there's a new lawsuit on the horizon, another class action towards Apple for an issue that people claim that Apple knew about and tried to sweep under the rug. What I am here today is to provide my insight on this issue, being that I have owned these headphones for a while. And the reason I say a while is because I forgot when I bought them. Alright, I'm back after taking embarrassingly long to look these up. So October 20th of 2019 is when I bought these. So I've had these for well over 2 years, and they're probably my most used headphones out of the entire collection, which if you know, I have like 5 different pairs of headphones. For no reason. Before we get into my opinions on this whole lawsuit, let's go over the lawsuit first. I think it's important for you to know what Apple's being sued over. So this article is from Engadget. It's titled, Apple Faces Class Action Lawsuit Over Powerbeats Pro Charging Issue. Apple is facing another lawsuit over Powerbeats battery trouble. There was also a lawsuit for Powerbeats 2 that settled back in 2020 where they paid $9.75 million. New York resident Alejandro Vivar has filed a potential class action lawsuit over allegations that Powerbeats Pro design defects prevents the wireless earbuds from charging properly, as it's reportedly too easy to lose contact between the buds and their charging case. One of the earpieces won't charge consistently or quickly drain its charge. Apple committed a fraud by misrepresenting battery life and failing to address issues that it supposedly knew about. That's what the plaintiff is saying. Vivar's attorney suggests a combination of the case design and an insufficiently sturdy ear gasket, the piece that goes into your ear, may be responsible for customers who have had to resort to inserting a wedge to keep the charging pins in contact. According to the lawsuit, lawmakers also reject Apple's claims that the Powerbeat Pros are sweat and water resistant, arguing that the sweat corrodes the charging contacts. The lawsuit also calls for Apple to correct the situation and compensate affected users and pay for unspecified damages. If the lawsuit is fully certified as a class action, it would cover both New York customers as well as those in Georgia, Michigan, Montana, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Dakota, and Virginia. I barely made it. I'm covered. If this goes to class action, I'm covered. We've asked Apple for a comment. As with many such lawsuits, there is no certainty it will reach class action status or lead to compensation, and we don't expect a windfall even if the case succeeds. With some exceptions, class action lawsuits tend to result in small payouts. If anything, the lawsuit may do more to affect the design choices than Powerbeats Pro's buyer's bank account. There we go. So it's a lawsuit that could potentially turn into a class action if they have enough people say that they're having the same issue. Now, the reason I wanted to cover this in the first place is because I really talked up these headphones on my channel. I did the unboxing video, and since then I've mentioned in random videos that these are probably some of my favorite headphones, definitely my favorite headphones to work out with. But when I read that, it hit me. And I was like, yeah, all that stuff is true. I've experienced these issues. So I kind of wanted to go over what causes this issue and how I've dealt with it and why I haven't really addressed it. I'm actually going to start with the last thing I said, why I haven't addressed it. And that's because to me, it was never like a big issue. As someone who uses these headphones, it doesn't happen to me often enough where it bothers me. Maybe 1 every 10 to 15 times I use it. But yeah, it is an issue. I will admit that. I didn't realize it was as big of an issue for someone to sue over it. But of course, you know, people will sue over anything. So basically what happens with these are, this part bends really easily. So it's supposed to be comfortable, so that makes sense. But yeah, they bend to go around your ear. You know, you wear them for an extended period of time. Sometimes it doesn't bend all the way back. So you put it back in the case, and this is slightly higher than this headphone. So when you put it down, basically the top of the case pushes the headphone slightly forward so it's not making full contact with the pins inside the case. So I'll show you the pins and how that whole thing works. So I'm doing this with one hand, so I'm spinning stuff. So the pins are basically here at the bottom of the headphones. There's 2 pins, and then inside the case here are the other 2 pins that it makes contact with. And so when you sit it in here, it's also magnetic, so it kind of claps in place sometimes. It's a very light connection to the pins. Like the magnet is good, but you can feel like the pins, it easily moves off the pins. So this is just enough. If you push it down, like if the case is pushing this down a little bit, especially towards the front, it can cause it to lose contact with these pins. So push it up slightly, just enough where it can lose contact. But yeah, that's the issue. I was trying to replicate it, but I couldn't. Things never break the way you want them to when you're recording a video, unfortunately. For me, it's never bothered me enough to even like do a video about or warn people not to buy it. I don't think it's that big of a deal, especially when you figure out what it is. You just got to really like push this down a little bit. And like I said, it doesn't happen that often. But yeah, it is annoying when it happens though. Like I'll admit it, because I'll have these headphones downstairs close to the treadmill, and then I'll come back upstairs after I worked out, and I'll look at my phone, and it's like one earphone is still connected. I'm just like, oh gosh, I gotta go back downstairs. Now the biggest issue I had with these headphones, one time it wouldn't charge. Like no matter what I did, the one headphone wouldn't charge. And in that case, no pun intended, I literally had to let the case die along with the other headphone. And when all three of them died and I charged it back up, that fixed it. But that's been the biggest issue. So overall, over 2 years, they have been pretty good headphones. As far as the lawsuit, I do think that there is validity to it, especially because I've experienced the issue. And should Apple acknowledge it? Yeah, they should. I didn't realize it was that big of an issue. Like I didn't realize that many people were even affected by it. It didn't say how many people were even potentially signing on for this lawsuit, so I don't know how many people were actually affected by it. I know that I was. But again, that is kind of a result of the design. There's not really anything they can do to fix it after the fact. They can only really do like a revision at the most if they were going to address it, like revise them and then recall the ones, like do a voluntary recall. And these headphones are pretty old now. They're not really new headphones anymore. So I just find it weird that this lawsuit's coming like towards the end of the life cycle probably for these, because they've already come out with those two new Beats products, like the Beats Pro, and I forgot what the other ones are, like the cheaper ones. But personally, I still think that these are great headphones. The other thing I wanted to address is the whole Apple getting sued thing and why it's always a headline. And I think that something like this, where it's not even really like that big of a thing, it just comes down to people thinking of Apple as like being perfect, like it's perfection. Like if we go back to, I think it was like the Note 7, the one that blew up. When that happened, like yeah, there was some scrutiny or whatever, but for the most part, I feel like a lot of people, especially users, defended Samsung in that situation. And people were really trying to hang on to their phones. Like Samsung did that recall and people were not trying to turn them in. They were like, please, please, you might die with this phone. Like, I don't care. They're like, what about your family? They live long enough. They'll be fine. People really love that phone. And I think it's because Samsung, they don't really present themselves as being perfect. They kind of present themselves as being like, you know, the hip, younger brand. That's what the kids. I'm old. I think part of it is really just a perception. And like the article mentions, we don't even know if this will turn into a class action, but nothing big will come of it other than maybe they'll just abandon this design altogether, which would really suck, because if something happens to these, like I'm just literally going to keep these until something happens to them, because I don't want the new ones with the wingtips, because I've already had those type of headphones. They never work for me. These are literally the only headphones that I've had that I can run in and do everything at the gym, and they just stay in my ear. So I don't really want any other ones, but I can see them abandoning this design, which could potentially be why they've done that new wingtip design anyway, other than the fact that they do look a little bit sleeker than these. Well, a lot sleeker. They're not this. They're a lot lighter. I hope that they revisit it. I hope that they can potentially fix this design issue and the next version of this won't have any issues. But let me know what you think about this whole Pro Gate, which is what I'm calling it. It's not even a gate really. I felt like I needed to name it before other people do. They'll probably come up with a more creative name and I'll be mad about it. But again, let me know what you think. I am out of here. But if you enjoyed this video, even though it's a little bit different than the videos I normally do, then make sure to tell a friend, tell a coworker, like, share, and subscribe, and always do at least 2 things at the same time.